Actually, your Reddit post mentioned that boy. Remember that you dreamt of this your crush when you were younger.
Oh yes.
Would you want to tell that story?
Yes, there was this boy in my class when I think I was maybe 6 or 7 or something, and I've always had kind of a thing for the silent type, ever since I was young. And this guy, this little boy, he wouldn't say much, and he would always be in class with me, and he would kind of be. He'd look around. He'd never stick up his hand to answer questions or anything, but he was kind of sitting at one of the desks. And I had this huge crush on him, and I knew his name was Kevin. And so yes, I was very fond of this boy. And then all of a sudden, I had a dream one night that he had been run over by a train. That he'd fallen onto the tracks and he'd been hit by a train. And that doctors were discussing him, the two doctors, and they said that there was a problem with his heart and his brain, and that that had been like the problem, and they were very dramatic about it in a way. It's so I woke up crying, and I wanted to tell this boy, like, I dreamt about you, and I always kind of I think we spoke a couple of times, because obviously I knew like his name was Kevin and stuff like that, and but he didn't show up to school that day, and then he didn't show up the day after, and eventually after like I think a week, I kind of asked my teacher, do you know if Kevin's coming back? Because I wanted to tell him something. Has he moved or something, or is he sick? And they didn't know who I was talking to. I was like, well, the blonde boy that sits over there, and and the teacher had no idea. And I asked my classmates as well, like, have you seen Kevin around? And they were all like, well, no, we don't know who that is. We don't have anyone that looks like that or acts like that in our class. And I was devastated to find out that he'd never been in our class, but I'd spoken to him a couple of times. And it's also not like the typical imaginary friend or something where they play with you constantly or something. It was very much a question of he was just in class, and I happened to see him from a distance, and I really liked him and stuff. And I've never heard anything about him after that again, so I still don't really know what happened there. To this day, there's still a part of me that just kind of thinks of him every now and again, like that little boy in my class that just disappeared into thin air, and nobody knew about him.
Is it possible that he was probably a ghost to begin with?
I think so, yes.
Yeah. So you've had a crush on a ghost.
Yes, and it was my first crush, so I was absolutely devastated.